Ladies and gents, I'm here with the one and only Janek Gwizdala, and this is the bass lines that made, well, actually, Janek, not me, but the bass lines that made me. And we're going to be looking at 5 incredible tracks that were inspirational to you when you were, well, when did you sort of like, were these tracks throughout your career, or were they towards the beginning when you were just getting started out?
It was really tough to pick just 5. That was my mandate for this. And these are stacked more towards the beginning than towards the end. I think the last one we have in the list is the latest one, chronologically speaking. Yeah. But this first one we're looking at is like really early doors of like, oh, this is bass. And this is like something I love, something I understand, or something maybe I don't understand yet, but something I'm willing to do the work to figure it out.
And when was the first time that you heard this track?
So I was maybe 17, something like that, 17, 18. I remember Jeff Gascoigne, bass player, great UK bass player.
Who was big on the education scene over here as well, wasn't he?
Right.
Like he was playing with sort of like the best over in the UK.
Sure.
Was he teaching at the Royal Academy as well?
Yes, and he played with Jamie Cullum for the longest time, I think 7 years in that band, and was a mentor to me and a great teacher, and he really hit me to some important stuff early doors, and this was like one of those. He was telling me to check out like Art Pepper and Wayne Shorter and Freddie Hubbard and all this jazz stuff, but he's like, check out the low end as well. You know? And so this was very early and something I've played to death.
And what's this track called?
Digging You Like an Old Soul Record.
By?
Meshell Ndegeocello.
Check this out.
Oh, low B. I don't have that.
Sit back, relax, and listen to the A-track. I dig you like an old soul.
Super tight sound as well, right?
Amazing.
Yes, I'm digging you.
I'm guessing this is a jazz bass. I didn't know it at the time.
I've never seen her play a 5-string ever.
No, me neither.
Low B.
Okay, pause it.
Remember back.
This is making me question everything I've known about this song until this moment. Literally, when we heard and I just said low B, is it Meshell? I wonder if that has its own wiki page. There are a ton of other bass players listed on the record. Just go straight to personnel and put us out of our misery.
What track is it on the album?
That's a good question. Does it list more bass players than her?
Doesn't, I don't think.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, then from horror, it goes to amazement that Hey Meshell played a 5-string with a low B on a record. That's really cool.
So check this out. On the Dyson's on the video.
The video, because he did the tour back then. That I knew.
What is this? Is that just live?
But that's live, I think,
That's live, isn't it?
Yeah, there's Gene Lake.
Oh, yeah.
He had a whole other arrangement, live arrangement.
Gene Lake's
so great.
Have you played with Gene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few times.
Oh, outrageous.
So
anyway,
great.
so we think.
We hope.
We hope it is Meshell.
Because she is my favorite bass player.
Yeah, like I wonder if it was a 4-string with a B on it or something like that. Because I've never seen it. Who
knows,
But
I'm going to have to find out somehow.
When everyone was black and kind, down for the struggle, that brought us all together.
But to me, it feels like her time. Like, of all the other music I've checked out of her live stuff where I know it's her, it feels like her.
It was so cool. Digging on me, digging on you. Everything was cool. My brothers.
But like definitely jazz bass thing, but bridge pickup, obviously.
Right. I can't get this to sound that pokey.
Is it Fuse on guitar?
That's Dave Kaczynski,
Relax and listen to the A-track. I dig it like an old soul record. Now brothers bassin', running from the beat down cops that be chasing. I'm running out of time, I'm running out of patience to this spoil of the conscious mind. I need some black.
And when it goes to the bridge here,
so change time.
For people wanting trying to recreate that sound, like obviously we've said it's like on the bridge. So it's on the bridge. I'll show you, but I'm on this.
Yeah.
But it's on the bridge. The bridge pickup, isn't it? Yeah. To get that kind of tone.
This is so not the bass to be doing that, but I guarantee if you come and see me live, I will play every single night.
You try and sneak it
somewhere
in.
it will happen.
Yeah.
It's like, it's another part of my vocabulary. It's like saying hi or goodbye. It's like so ingrained in my playing. If that had been a vinyl, I'd have had to go through 20 copies of it.
Yeah. And also just to note as well, if you're trying to get that tone, you like Janek's playing right back over
by
the bridge pickup as well.
Yeah, kind of like literally over the back side of the pickup.
Yeah. Could you play the same thing, but have you like your hand right over here by the neck, just to show? Yeah.
You kind of lose all the poke.
It's just not the vibe, is it? Like it's a vibe. It's a great vibe, but it's not that vibe. It's not for that type of music.
And palm muting, it sounds okay, like, but it's vocabulary. At the end of the day, it's just vocabulary. I've used that, as you will hear. Now that the secret's out. That's my one bass line.
When you play on a gig, do you regularly sort of like move your hand up and down this area? So you're not sort of like static on one point?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And we'll make examples of that, like trying to get some of these other tones on this bass.
So this next one is Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What's the story behind this?
My dad used to have a green Ford Capri, as you do in the 80s.
Capri.
So yeah, just like my dad listened to 80s music and playing that Yes all the time, riding around in the Ford Capri. And I just remember that like super vividly. And I don't know, there's something about that sense memory. And when you hear something so young, so early, that it stays with you. And then I got to hear John Anderson much later, and I was like, oh man, you when you hear John Anderson and you know that from when you're 5 years old, it's just like there's some instant connection there that is kind of priceless when it comes to music for me.
Yeah. How old were you when you were driving around in that Capri with your dad?
6, 7 years old, something, I don't know. Yeah, a long time ago.
It's freaking awesome, isn't it?
And this one leg.
Love it.
Move yourself. You always live your life, never thinking of the future. Prove yourself. You are the move you make. Take your chances when
And that's it. For like 3/4 of the song. Doesn't move.
you are the steps you take.
Who's the bass player on that?
Chris Squire.
Chris Squire, yeah.
And unbeknownst to me for the longest time, Chris Squire used to come to my gigs.
What?
At the 606 in Chelsea. I had
Amazing.
no idea who it was. And he used to come up and say, oh man, really love your playing. And then
What? And you actually used to? Oh, hey,
I used to sit,
this that guy that comes to my gigs.
Yeah.
But you didn't know who he was.
no idea. Because this I heard before I knew what music was, before I knew what being a musician was. I had no association with, Bruford and Chris Squire, Rick Waite. None of. There's this guy just came to the gig, this bass player, like the older dude, really nice and was always complimentary. Oh man, that nice cat's here again, cool. And then eventually find out it's Chris Squire, and we get to talk, and we luckily got to share some moments before he passed away. I was like, wow, this is so. And then I was freaking out.
Bonkers.
Then I was like, this is such a part of my childhood and this like foundation of my music, and that you're the guy.
Were you? Did you find out? Was it harder to play in front of him after you found out? Oh, that's.
No, not really harder to play in front of him, but then it was more about talking to him and nervous to say the wrong thing, and then I wanted to ask him questions but not be too pushy, and like he was at a jazz club in a completely different surrounding to prog rock. I'm like, he's probably here for a reason. Get rid of all of that, maybe. I don't know. We talked a lot about jazz and stuff, and not about rock, and so I didn't really want to push it, and it's like maybe you're a golf instructor or something. You do golf all day, you go for dinner with a friend, and the first thing the friend says, oh, by the way, he's a golf instructor. And everyone asks you questions about golf all night over dinner, and you're like, no. So I don't know.
Yeah, you didn't know what the vibe was. Have you ever been on a gig, like playing, and either, looked out into the audience and thought, oh shit, somebody's there watching me. You maybe didn't know that they were going to be there. It caught you unawares. Or you've known that they were coming. I always think that it's kind of weird. It's like an emotionally weird thing when you know that when the people catch you.
Definitely, I can think of some times where I've known people are there. I got very fortunate 20-something years ago to open for Herbie Hancock for a European tour for 8 weeks. So I knew Herbie was in the building, and sometimes he'd be playing away opening act, and you'd look over and there he'd be standing in the wings of the theater. You'd play, holy shit, that fucking Herbie Hancock. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, definitely moments like that. And then of course, I've lived in New York and I've lived in LA. So if you play enough, that does tend to happen a little bit. Because people are great musicians that you admire are just regular people that want to come out and see a gig. So with Mike Stern, that probably happened the most at the 55 Bar in New York.
I was going to say probably.
I'd look up and there'd be Steve Lukather and Holdsworth and just all of the people you worshipped and idolized. Not to mention, I'm standing next to Mike Stern playing a gig. That's already enough, So yeah, for sure.
Travesty that the 55 closed as well.
Oh,
bonkers.
Heartbreaking.
Bonkers.
I've played more gigs in that place than maybe I'll play anywhere else in my life,
Wow. I think, do you know the, what was that live album you did, recorded in the 55? Is it called
Live at the 55? That was my second album, yeah.
I think I was there.
Wow, in 2007 that would have been. 8?
2008. I think I was on, at the bar as you recorded. Did you record it over 2 nights?
Yeah.
I was there for one of them.
Wow.
How weird is that?
Holy
I was
shit.
definitely there for one of them. With my girlfriend at the time, but we were in New York for 4 or 5 weeks or something, and we went down. But that was, to your point, it was what a great club. I can remember being there on that same trip, watching Wayne Krantz and Chris Potter, who's this phenomenal sax player.
It was the mecca for...
He wandered in. He wandered over to there wasn't any stage, but over to the front with the band player,
and boom.
Played a track, and then packed
up and left.
And then left. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah,
used to do that at 5 or 6 different clubs every night. Just circle around. Fat Cat, Smalls, 55 Bar,
Smalls,
Detour, all of these clubs. Yeah, 50. I mean, I'd be on the gig with Mike Stern, and suddenly you would notice they were pulling the Rhodes out of the office and setting it up. I was like, what the fuck is going on? We're in the middle of a tune.
Yeah.
And Paul Schaefer would walk in from the Letterman show and sit down and play. Or Lou Soloff would be there. My first big gig in New York was at Sweet Basil with Hiram Bullock, with Ken Denard on drums, Raymond Angry on keyboards, and then that was the first night I played with Randy Brecker because he came in, and Casey Benjamin and the Mason Brothers, Lou Soloff. It was just a row of.
Is there a video of that on YouTube?
I have camcorder footage.
Playing the wall.
Yes, I have camcorder footage of that.
Yeah, and Randy's playing, and
maybe there is some on YouTube.
And Hiram Bullock comes over, he's playing a riff, and you're.
Oh yes.
Is that gig?
That is that gig. That was a week at Sweet Basil. We played a week there, and that was 2000.
I'm going to find that clip right now. Okay. Let me just find that clip. Let me just find that clip. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
You guys are one of the luckiest audiences.
And he's announcing
Of Greenwich Village.
Randy Brecker coming to the stage, I think.
Is this the first time you played with Randy Brecker? Because
Right
he
here.
toured with you, didn't he, at some point?
Yeah, he toured with my band, and then I toured with his band.
The grandfather of music. You got it. Now, I wanted to see.
Who's on kit? Kenwood Denard.
Ken Denard,
Who's the drummer in modern electric bass with
Jacob Astorius, John Scofield, yeah. Can't believe this is 23 years ago.
Hiram. Isn't it amazing that these things were captured though?
Yeah. Scary.
Bonkers.
Some of them are scary. Some of them are nostalgic like that, but some of them are scary.
Okay, so I love YouTube, you probably love YouTube, but let's be honest. it's not the best platform for in-depth teaching. Enter the SBL Academy. At SBL, we break down the bass with a curriculum-driven approach that spans from complete beginner level to super advanced. We also cover all kinds of genres, skills, and techniques, all brought to you by world-class bass instructors. And best of all, you can get started today for free at trysbl.com.
Okay, next up.
Yes. What is
Billie
it?
Jean.
Oh yeah.
Billie Jean.
That's what got me this gig. That's what Billie Jean is what got me the gig with Hiram. I played the very first gig. Kenwood Denard got me the gig.
Yeah.
But after that gig in the dressing room, Hiram Bullock comes up. He said, "Meow." He's a big, larger-than-life dude, beautiful cat, and he's like, "So the jazz shit's cool. You play Teen Town like a motherfucker. Great. But what's the real shit you've been listening to?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What did you listen to when you were a kid?" I said, "Oh, I listened to the radio." He said, "Yeah, keep doing that." And that was his advice. He's like, I said I listened to Michael Jackson and Madonna, like literally what was on the radio. And he said, "Hey, you listen to Thriller?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Keep listening to that."
That is amazing.
So he was like hard on me to like keep listening to the groove. The jazz shit is great, but the groove will pay the rent.
Keep doing this.
Yeah, big time.
So good.
Louis Johnson plus synth.
Yeah. It's octaves as well, right?
I think he only plays, but the synth is playing the lower part.
Yeah.
That's how I always heard it.
She was more like beauty queen from a movie.
I actually noticed that because of watching a video of you, I think, playing with Hiram Bullock.
Really?
There was this random...
makes sense.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
just to sort of like thread it all together.
Yeah.
There was like a workshop. I don't even know where there were. It wasn't on YouTube. It was some other entity on the web somewhere.
Okay.
And there was this random. It was like a workshop, maybe in Berkeley or some kind of clinic. Yeah. And at some point you're playing that riff, and you were going. You were doing the octaves, and I was like, no shit, it's octaves. And I like listened to the track. I was like, hell yeah, it's octaves. Yeah.
But that's synth.
Yeah.
I think that I always heard it as synth, and then Alfonso.
Yeah, it's like.
I think Alfonso was Louis Johnson was just playing that, but yeah, huge for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's funny that it was with Hiram that you saw it because he was really on me about it.
Yeah. It was actually that was the first time I'd seen it. Yeah. Next up, Gimme Some Lovin'.
Oh, the man, the absolute man, Steve Winwood, Spencer Davis group.
Who's playing bass on this?
Oh.
Muff. Yes.
Oh.
Muff.
Who is?
Winwood.
Yeah, who's Steve's brother?
What?
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Wicked. Muff Winwood.
Oh, I love this, and it's the same thing basically.
And I would have been so peeved if I was called Muff and my brother was called Steve.
yeah.
I was like, Mum, you could have called me Steve.
Right.
You called me Muff. Anyway, let's listen to the track. Oh. When's the first time you heard this?
Young.
Was it on the film Blues Brothers?
Yes. Not this version though.
Not this version. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a voice.
Crazy people knocking doors, I wanna sell more. Let me in, baby, I don't know what you got, but you better take it easy. This place
And an interesting chord progression. Minor third, 4 to flat 6.
give me some loving.
No typical 5 chord.
Yeah.
And that's it, all the way through, octaves.
Freaking Hammond sounds amazing.
And I got a chance to play with him.
No shit.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Early doors, before I moved to the States, played like 3 shows with him. It was unbelievable. Like being next to the Leslie on stage.
In London was that?
No, that was out west near Cheltenham.
Got it.
Yeah. He lives out there. There's a big place out there.
How did you get the gig?
It wasn't the gig. I was playing with a Brazilian guitar player called Jose Neto, who used to play at Ronnie's a lot.
Yeah.
I've done a week at Ronnie's, and then this guy out in a place called Guiting Power out in the Cotswolds would bring Neto out, and Neto and Steve were starting to work together on an album. So we went to hang at Steve's house, which was amazing. Hang out in the studio, recording and stuff, and I was playing in Neto's band, and we played some shows out there together. It was unbelievable. First time I ever saw a Hammond organ being moved around with 2 Leslies and 4 guys in a truck. I was like, holy
So
shit,
heavy.
that's how that works.
So heavy.
Yeah.
So heavy. If you've never had to move like a Hammond and Leslie, just, yeah,
I thought a
sidestep
Rhodes
that
was
one.
bad, but
it's incredible, isn't it? It's just so heavy.
unreal, yeah. So I got to play with him and hang out, and it was his kid's birthday when we were at his house one day, and he played like Happy Birthday, the most ridiculous reharm. I was like, this guy is unbelievable. He's not just this like, bring me a higher love. He's not just that guy, you know? And if anyone is watching this, you should go and check out Georgia on My Mind, Steve Winwood with the Spencer Davis Group, 1967.
Yeah.
It's one of the most ridiculous vocals I've ever heard. It was hard. I almost picked that for my Steve Winwood moment for this thing, but it's not really a bass line because it's a jazz tune. This is really like, this is really a bass line that affected me in a big way.
Yeah.
It's so obvious as well. You can't really play it in other stuff. The Meshell one, I can sneak it in there. This one is like, he's playing the Spencer Davis group.
Yeah. He's playing Gimme Some Lovin'.
Right.
This one is...
a little more modern.
This one was huge for me.
Oh.
This album was huge for me.
Same.
It was,
Takes a while to creep in.
Yeah.
But this came out while I was at Berkeley.
Did it?
And I remember sitting in the media center like, I don't smoke weed, I don't get high or anything, but I thought
But if you did.
This is what it must be like. This is the music you must listen to. So great. Just seeing things. All the way through.
I've not listened to this track in so many years.
And it's like the soundtrack to a bunch of TV shows, or has been over the years.
Yeah. It's super dark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Janek was saying there's 3, so this is Mezzanine. The album's Mezzanine by Massive Attack, who were based out of Bristol, weren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
And this came out like 99 or 2000, something like that.
Yeah.
I think.
And there was 3 bass players listed on the album.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the other 2, but Winston Blissett was one of them. I think that this is Winston.
I hope so.
I heard he's on the live, they do like there's a live thing on YouTube, and he was playing his Ken Smith 6-string. On the live thing, it just sounds like a Ken Smith 6, and it like, in my mind, I'm listening to this, it's a Ken Smith 6.
Sounds the same, yeah. I think it's just mixed so well as well. It's like very impactful considering how sparse the line is. It's nothing, it's 2 notes, you know?
She's on the dark side.
And listening to this, I realize I've picked 5 tracks where the bass line basically doesn't change the whole time.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because like, you know, you'd expect that, well, maybe you wouldn't expect it, but you know, you could get somebody be like, oh, what do you think really influenced Janek? You'd be like, oh, like all these fusion albums and stuff like that, which obviously probably did influence
100%, yeah.
But like,
when I go back to what's the most important to me, is this.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked before about soloing and stuff like that. I think the foundation upon which that is built, the soloing becomes far more effective when it's built on something like this.
Yeah.
Than maybe something not so stable. You know,
It's
about as stable as it gets as far as I'm concerned, you know?
Yeah, do you feel sort of like the push and pull between, is there a difference when you're involved in a project between like playing bass and soloist? Or is it just all for you making music and merged into one?
Yeah, it's one thing.
It was one thing, yeah.
I try and avoid the soloing thing on records as much as I can. I avoided it on most of my records.
Yeah, I've noticed
find,
that
like,
actually.
one
We haven't
solo.
spoken about that actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
Maybe you find one solo on those records. Even though I'm considered a jazz musician, I'm hugely influenced by soloists and fusion and all that shit.
yeah.
I've tried to avoid it.
There's maybe like one or two
On each
solos.
record, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was constantly asked by like Bass Player magazine back in the day when they were asked to do an interview about it, like, why don't you know bass solos? I was like, no, man. I hired soloists.
And why
play
was that?
solos.
Why was that?
Because what was huge at the time for bass players was like Marcus Miller. What was his Tails? For instance.
Tails.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Some beautiful melodic playing. His fretless playing is one of the most underrated things I think he's ever done. His fretless playing is unbelievable, and his melodies, his writing, the whole thing. But that was what was like really big. The Front Page, Dominic Piazza with Dennis Chambers and Borelli Legren. Tons of choppy solo-y stuff. Beautiful. Not for me. You know. That was just it. And slowly, like, I've come out my shell a little bit in terms of that, but I just didn't think I had anything to, like Patitucci's entire discography with the most perfectly crafted bass solos.
Yeah.
What am I going to say that's any different from that?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I get it.
I tried to write my way into the scene, you know, or orchestrate or put the right band together maybe. And yeah, the irony being I'm this soloist, but really
I think
I like operating from the ground up, kind of.
Like with your first album, Mystery to Me, like one of the biggest moments that I remember when I think back about when I was listening to that for the first time, one of the sort of like the big things that jumps out to me was I was like, oh shit, it's not a bass album.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was expecting.
Right.
I was like, oh,
I think a lot of
hot
people
new
were,
bass player.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got like an idea, you've got this sort of like preconception of what to expect.
I think on this new album,
not that.
where I'm playing some choppy stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I'm playing all that on the new record, and I look back and I'm like, shit, should I have done that? You know, even now in 2023.
Yeah.
So it's slowly coming into it, but that is in a compositional sense.
I was going to say there's a difference, isn't there?
Big difference. It's not just blowing over changes. It's more in a compositional sense. So I kind of feel okay with that. I don't feel so self-conscious about doing that on records now.
Yeah, and I think there's also sort of like I don't know, I'm finding it hard to find the words, but it's, do you know when, because I'm not into, bass album. I'm not.
Right, me neither.
You know, like, and that's no sort of like diss against people that make them.
Yep.
That's great, but it doesn't like emotionally turn me on. Right. You know, actually
100%.
kind of does the opposite for me. I'm like, oh, you know, I kind of like it to be like sound like a real band interacting. And if there's one instrument that's like overcooking it within that ensemble, it's like a little bit of a turn off for me. Not saying that people haven't made great bass albums in the past, they absolutely have. So I think that it's kind of like a delicate mix, isn't it? You can go absolutely overcook it, but I think that to your point with the stuff that it's like a compositional thing. It's
Big
not
time.
like a bass feature.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And there's programming on there, and I'm playing in unison with other things, so it's not even like it's standing out on its own. It's like adding to the overall picture, which is hopefully a healthy balance. Let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to go listen to the album, where they're going to go?
It's all obviously on all of the major streaming platforms. If you want the more sort of play along package like we did this DI, like there's no leakage into the drums, so we actually did play alongs of all this stuff. If you're mental enough to want to go and try and play some of this stuff, by all means go to janekgwizdala.com, and there's a whole other lane of things besides just listening.
And you do
to the
books and stuff over there that people can
of
find.
course. All of the books, everything's there, janekgwizdala.com. I try and be on my shit over there and keep it updated.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.